The stars themselves seemed to tear apart as the Valtherian warfleet dropped out of hyperspace. 10,000 warships materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system, their hulls gleaming with the light of distant stars. Each vessel was massive, some stretching over 5 kilometers in length. They had been built for one purpose: conquest. Supreme Commander Vex Thor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His scales reflected the cold blue light of the navigation screens. Behind him, dozens of officers worked at their stations, confident and relaxed. This was their 848th planetary conquest. It would be as easy as all the others. "Status report," Vex Thor commanded, his voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of military tradition. "All ships accounted for, Commander," his tactical officer replied. "The target planet shows primitive space capability. Chemical propulsion only. No energy shields detected. Their weapons appear to be basic nuclear fission devices." Vex Thor allowed himself a small smile. Another backward world, ripe for absorption into the Empire. The planet called Earth would surrender quickly once they saw the fleet. They always did. Far below on Earth, in a facility buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Captain Jiwan sat bolt upright at his console. The screen in front of him had just lit up with warnings. His coffee cup fell to the floor, forgotten. "Contact! Multiple contacts," he shouted. "I'm reading massive energy signatures at grid reference Solar North, distance 4.2 billion kilometers." The command center erupted into controlled chaos. Lieutenant Heijin ran to his station, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Confirming contact. I count. Sir, I count 10,000 distinct energy signatures. Ship-sized." Minho, the senior systems analyst, pulled up the visual feeds from their deep space sensors. His face went pale. "They're here. After all these years, they're actually here." Jiwan grabbed his phone and dialed the emergency line directly to the Global Defense Council. His hands shook slightly, but his voice was steady. "This is Pacific Command. Initiate Code Zenith. I repeat, Code Zenith. We have confirmed alien contact. Hostile fleet detected." The message Jiwan sent would change everything. For 60 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had detected the first alien probe in 1965, long before the public knew. That discovery had terrified world leaders. They realized humanity was not alone, and worse, they were not the strongest. In secret, the nations of Earth had done the impossible. They united. All the wars, all the conflicts, all the hatred became secondary to one goal: survival. While the public watched space shuttles and rovers, the real space program happened in hidden facilities across the globe. Scientists worked in underground labs, engineers built weapons in mountains, soldiers trained for wars the public couldn't imagine. Back in space, Vex Thor reviewed the data his ships had collected about Earth. He saw cities, primitive aircraft, and simple satellites. He saw nations divided, still fighting among themselves. Perfect. Divided enemies were weak enemies. "Prepare the standard surrender message," Vex Thor ordered. "Give them 72 hours to comply. Make sure they understand the alternative." The message was transmitted on all frequencies: radio, television, internet. Every communication system on Earth received the same demand: surrender or die. Submit to the Empire or be destroyed. The Valtherians expected panic, chaos, and quick capitulation. They got something very different. In Geneva, the Global Defense Council met in an emergency session. President Soo Hyun of the Korean Federation addressed the assembly via secure hologram. "We always knew this day would come. Project Shadow has been active for 6 decades. Our fleets are ready. Our weapons are charged. Our soldiers are prepared." Defense Minister Bora from the European Alliance nodded. "The Valtherians think we're primitive. They've studied our public technology, and assumed that's all we have. They have no idea what we've built in secret. General Wu Jin, commander of Earth's hidden space forces, brought up a tactical display. It showed not just the Valtherian fleet, but dozens of human installations the aliens hadn't detected. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids. Ships hidden in the shadows of moons. Satellites that looked dead, but were very much alive. They're approaching slowly, Wu Jin said. They think they have all the time in the world. That arrogance will kill them. Back at Pacific Command, Jiwan received his orders. His fingers trembled as he entered the authorization codes. Heijin stood beside him, watching the screen. Minho double-checked every system. Are we really doing this? Heijin whispered. Starting a war with an empire that has conquered hundreds of worlds? Jiwan looked at her, his eyes hard. They started it when they threatened our home. We're just going to finish it. The codes were accepted. Deep in space, hidden weapons platforms began to wake up. On the dark side of the moon, massive doors opened in the lunar surface, revealing hangars that held Earth's true fleet. Ships that made the Valtherian vessels look primitive powered up their engines. Vex Thor watched his fleet advance toward the blue planet. He imagined the terror of the inhabitants below. He pictured their leaders desperately trying to negotiate. He thought about how quickly they would surrender. He had no idea that in underground bunkers across Earth, soldiers were checking their weapons. He didn't know that in orbit, automated defense systems were acquiring targets. He couldn't imagine that the primitive planet he was about to attack had been waiting for him, preparing for him, and was about to teach his ancient empire a lesson it would never forget. The Valtherian Empire had conquered 847 worlds. They had never lost a battle. Their technology had been refined over millennia. Their warriors were legendary across the galaxy, but they had never fought humanity. They had never encountered a species that had clawed its way to the top of the food chain on a high-gravity death world. They had never faced an enemy that had survived ice ages, plagues, and countless near extinctions, each time coming back stronger. Jiwan pressed the final button. Omega Defense Grid is active. All stations report ready. He looked up at the main screen showing the approaching alien fleet. Welcome to Earth, he said quietly. Now let me show you why you should have stayed away. Wanavai. Wanavai. The Valtherian vanguard moved forward with absolute confidence. 500 capital ships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, advanced in perfect formation. Their shields glowed with power. Their weapons were armed and ready. This was how the Empire always began. A conquest, overwhelming force, devastating display, immediate surrender. Commander Vex Thor watched from his flagship as the vanguard crossed into what his sensors told him was Earth's outer defense zone. He expected primitive missiles at best, perhaps some laser weapons, nothing his shields couldn't handle with ease. Vanguard reporting all systems optimal, his communications officer announced. No hostile response detected. The primitives appear to be in disarray. Vex Thor nodded. It was always the same. The sight of the Empire's fleet was enough to break most civilizations. Proceed as planned. Establish orbit and prepare for. The first ship vanished, not exploded, not destroyed, simply ceased to exist. One moment, the heavy cruiser, Relentless, was there, its shields at full power, its crew of 3,000 going about their duties. The next moment, there was nothing. Not even debris. What just happened? Vex Thor demanded, standing up from his command chair. Before anyone could answer, 2 more ships disappeared, then 5, then 20. In the span of 30 seconds, 50 Valtherian warships were erased from existence. On Earth, in a facility hidden beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Suman watched her creation perform perfectly. The quantum disruption satellites were her life's work. Designed and built over 40 years. They didn't destroy matter, they simply removed it from this dimension. Where the ships went, not even she knew. She didn't care. What mattered was they were gone. Target acquisition working perfectly, her assistant reported. The satellites are prioritizing largest mass signatures. Should we increase the firing rate? Suman shook her head. No. Let them see what's happening. Let them feel the fear. In space, panic spread through the Valtherian vanguard. Ships that had never retreated in 1,000 years suddenly broke formation, trying to escape. But Admiral Do-hyun had anticipated this. From his position on the bridge of the EDS Indomitable, Earth's first true warship, he gave the order that sealed their fate. Activate gravity well generators. Nothing leaves this kill zone. The generators, positioned throughout the combat area, created artificial gravity fields that trapped the Valtherian ships. Their engines strained and failed. They were stuck, helpless, and about to learn what human weapons could really do. Lieutenant Yuna sat at the weapons console of the Indomitable, her hands steady despite her racing heart. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life. Around her ship, 19 other human warships decloaked, appearing as if materializing from nothing. All ships report weapons locked, she announced. Do-hyun's voice was calm. Fire. The directed energy weapons were based on principles the Valtherians didn't even have theories for. Beams of exotic matter, accelerated to near-light speed, crossed the distance to the trapped alien ships in milliseconds. The Valtherian shields, designed to stop conventional energy weapons, might as well have been paper. The first beam struck a Valtherian battleship amidships. The shield didn't block it or absorb it. The beam simply passed through as if the shield wasn't there. The hull glowed white-hot for a fraction of a second before the entire ship exploded, torn apart by the energy release. Yuna's fingers moved across her console, each touch sending another lance of destructive power into the enemy fleet. Her weapons computer, powered by quantum processing, calculated trajectories, and adjusted for movement, faster than any alien could think. Every shot hit. Every hit killed. On the Eternal Dominion, Vexthor finally understood. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Emergency! Jump! Get us out of here! We can't jump, Commander. His helmsman shouted back. Something is holding us in place. The engines won't engage. Vexthor watched his fleet die. Ships that had conquered worlds, that carried weapons powerful enough to crack planets, were being swatted from space like insects. In 17 minutes, 500 ships were reduced to nothing but expanding clouds of gas and debris, and then it stopped. The human ships held their fire. 19 vessels against Vexthor's remaining fleet of 9,000. 500 ships. The aliens should have had the advantage. Instead, there was only fear. Tae-hyun sat in a facility deep beneath the Australian outback, surrounded by the most advanced communication systems humanity had ever built. His job was simple. Make sure the Valtherians couldn't talk to each other. Every frequency they tried to use, he jammed. Every quantum channel they opened, he flooded with noise. The once mighty empire was blind and deaf. They're trying to retreat to Jupiter, Tae-hyun reported to the command network. Shall I let them? General Woojin's voice came back immediately. Let them run. We want them grouped together for the next phase. Vexthor didn't know he was being herded like an animal. He thought he was making tactical decisions. He thought his 3,000 years of military experience meant something. He was wrong. The Valtherian fleet regrouped near Jupiter, trying desperately to establish communication and formulate a plan. Their long-range sensors swept space, looking for the human ships. They found nothing. The human vessels had vanished as completely as they had appeared. Status. Vexthor demanded. We've lost contact with the Vanguard. All 500 ships are gone. We're detecting some kind of interference with our communication systems. Navigation is unreliable. Sensors are giving contradictory readings. A junior officer, barely old enough to have finished training, spoke up nervously. Commander, what if the readings we're getting aren't real? What if they've hacked our systems? Vexthor turned on him with fury. Impossible. Our encryption is unbreakable. Our systems have been refined over thousands of years. These primitives couldn't possibly. The lights on the bridge flickered. Every screen went dark for a moment, then came back on. But something was different. The data was wrong. The positions of stars were incorrect. The readouts made no sense. Taehyun smiled in his underground bunker, thousands of kilometers away. He had just done the impossible. He had infiltrated the Valtherians' central computer network. Every ship in their fleet was now feeding false data to its crew. They thought they were spread out in a defensive formation. Actually, they were clustered together in the perfect target zone. Human ships decloaking. A Valtherian sensor operator screamed, but there were no ships, just drones, small and expendable, designed to look like capital ships on sensors. The Valtherians fired everything they had at empty space, wasting ammunition on ghosts. And while they fired at nothing, Colonel Junho's ghost squadron moved into position. 12 ships, each one invisible to every sensor the Valtherians had. They drifted through the alien fleet like shadows, going completely unnoticed. All units in position, Captain Yoonji reported from Ghost 2. Junho checked his boards one final time. Everything was green. Release the swarm. From each ghost ship, billions of nanites poured out into space. Each one was microscopic, self-replicating, and programmed with a single mission. Dismantle Valtherian technology. They spread through the fleet like a plague, invisible and unstoppable. The first Valtherian ship lost life support. Then its engines. Then its weapons. The crew suffocated as their vessel died around them. Then another ship failed. And another. Within hours, half of Vex Thor's fleet was dead in space, their crews dying in the dark. Vex Thor stood alone on his bridge, watching his empire's military might crumble. He finally understood the truth. Earth wasn't primitive. They were apex predators who had been hiding, waiting, preparing. And now, they were teaching the galaxy a lesson that would echo for 10,000 years. Vex Thor had survived for over 3 centuries through cunning, strength, and an ability to adapt to any situation. He had led fleets through impossible battles and emerged victorious. But nothing in his long life had prepared him for this nightmare. Half his fleet floated dead in space around Jupiter. Ships that had been alive with power and purpose just hours ago were now tombs. His officers stared at their screens in horror, watching as more vessels went dark. The life support systems failed. The engines stopped. Even the emergency backup systems refused to function. "How are they doing this?" his science officer whispered, her voice breaking. "Our ships are dying, and we can't even see the enemy." Vex Thor knew the answer, though it terrified him to admit it. The humans hadn't just matched Valtherian technology. They had surpassed it by centuries, maybe millennia. Everything the Empire had built, everything they had learned, was obsolete. "Send a message to the homeworld," Vex Thor ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell them Earth is not what we thought. Tell them to send everything. And tell them..." He paused, the words bitter on his tongue. "Tell them we might lose." But the message never sent. Taehyun had sealed every communication channel. The mighty Valtherian Empire would die in Earth's solar system, without ever calling for help. They would disappear, and their homeworld would only wonder what happened to their greatest fleet. On Earth, in a military facility hidden beneath the mountains of Norway, General Sora reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The enemy was crippled, confused, and demoralized. "Time for the final phase. Activate Project Ascension," she ordered. "Send in the operators." In a ready room aboard the orbital station Olympus, squad leader Jae-hyun checked his gear one final time. Around him, 99 other soldiers did the same. They were the product of 40 years of genetic enhancement, cybernetic augmentation, and training that would kill normal humans. They could survive in hard vacuum. Their reflexes were faster than computers. Their bones were reinforced with carbon nanotubes. Their blood carried specialized cells that could heal almost any injury. They were no longer quite human. They were something more. Something designed specifically to fight and win wars against superior alien civilizations. Listen up, Jaehyun addressed his team. Our mission is simple. Board the Valtherian flagship. Capture their commander. Force a surrender. Rules of engagement. They threaten you, they die. They surrender, they live. Questions? There were none. These soldiers had been training for this mission since they were children. They had practiced boarding alien vessels in simulations 1,000 times. Now, they would do it for real. Slipspace teleporter is charged, the tech officer reported. Coordinates locked on the Valtherian flagship's command center. Jaehyun gave one last look at Earth through the viewport. His home. The planet these aliens had dared to threaten. Let's go show them why that was a mistake. Reality twisted. Space folded. One moment, the operators were on Olympus. The next moment, they materialized inside the Eternal Dominion's command center. The Valtherians didn't even have time to be surprised. They had been studying their failing systems, trying desperately to understand what was killing their fleet. Suddenly, human soldiers simply appeared among them. Soldiers wearing armor that gleamed like black mirrors. Soldiers carrying weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Jaehyun's team moved with precision. 3 seconds after arrival, every Valtherian in the command center, except Vex Thor, was either dead or restrained. 5 seconds after arrival, Specialist Nari had physically connected to the ship's main computer. 7 seconds after arrival, the Eternal Dominion belonged to humanity. Jaehyun walked slowly toward Vex Thor, his boots clicking on the deck. The alien commander stood frozen, his hand still reaching for a weapon he would never touch. A plasma rifle, held by Operator Kiwon, was pointed directly at his head. Supreme Commander Vex Thor, Jaehyun said, his voice calm and cold. I am Squad Leader Jaehyun of the Terran Defense Force. Your fleet is destroyed. Your ships are dead. Your crew is dying. You have one chance to save the survivors. Vex Thor's scales had turned pale with fear, but his eyes still held defiance. You're making a mistake, human. The Empire spans thousands of worlds. This fleet is nothing. They will send 100 more, 1,000 more. They will turn your planet to ash and scatter the remains. Across. We're counting on it, Jaehyun interrupted, a cold smile on his face. Please, send more fleets. Send everything you have. We'll destroy them too. And every time you lose, every time you fail, the galaxy will see how weak you really are. Behind Vex Thor, the main view screen activated. It showed the space around Jupiter. What had been 10,000 ships was now a graveyard. Hulls drifted in pieces. Escape pods floated among the debris, their occupants already dead from lack of oxygen. The few ships still intact were dark and silent. Look at what we did to you in 3 days, Jaehyun continued. Your empire took 3,000 years to build. We could end it in 3 weeks. Is that really what you want? Nari spoke up from her position at the computer terminal. Sir, I have complete access to their systems. I control life support on all remaining ships. I control their weapons. I control their engines. The Valtherian fleet is now effectively a Terran fleet. Vex Thor's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, the weight of absolute defeat crushing him. 3 centuries of victories meant nothing. All his pride, all his confidence, all his certainty was gone. Humanity had taken everything from him in less than a week. How? He whispered. How did you do this? We studied your planet. You were primitive. You still used fossil fuels. You hadn't even left your solar system. Jaehyun crouched down to look Vex Thor in the eye. You studied what we wanted you to study. We've known about the galaxy for 60 years. We've been preparing for 60 years. Common. Every probe you sent, we detected and fed false information. Every scan you made, we manipulated. You never saw the real Earth. You saw what we wanted you to see. He stood up and gestured to his team. My grandfather was one of the scientists who first detected your probe in 1965. He spent his entire life building the foundation for this moment. My mother helped design the quantum disruption satellites. My father trained the first generation of ascended operators. I am the third generation of humans who grew up knowing we were not alone, knowing that threats existed beyond our world, knowing that one day we would have to fight. Jae-hyun looked around the captured bridge. You came here expecting primitives. You found predators. You came here expecting victory. You found extinction. Operator Mireille reported from the tactical station she had taken over. Sir, I'm reading movement from the remaining Valtherian ships. They're attempting to power up weapons systems. Denied, Nari said simply, her fingers flying across the alien computer. All weapons locked out. Life support reduced to minimal levels. They can breathe, but they can't fight. Jae-hyun turned back to Vex Thor. Last chance, Commander. Order the surrender. Save what's left of your people, or I'll vent the atmosphere on every remaining ship and let your crew suffocate. Vex Thor looked at the human standing over him. He saw no mercy in those eyes. No hesitation. Just cold, absolute certainty. These humans would do exactly what they said. They would kill every Valtherian in the system without a second thought if he refused. His hand shaking, Vex Thor reached for the communication panel. His voice, once so strong and commanding, came out broken and defeated. All ships, this is Supreme Commander Vex Thor. I order an immediate and unconditional surrender to the Terran Defense Force. Power down all weapons. Await further instructions. Jae-hyun nodded to Nari. Broadcast it on all channels. Make sure every ship hears it. As Vexy Thor's surrender order spread through the dying fleet, Jae-hyun activated his comlink to Earth. Command, this is Ghost Actual. Primary objective complete. The Valtherian fleet has surrendered. Requesting instructions for Phase 4. General Sora's voice came back, satisfaction evident. Well done, Ghost Actual. Hold position. Phase 4 begins in 1 hour. It's time to send a message to the entire galaxy. The surrender lasted exactly 14 seconds before Vex Thor made his final mistake. His hand moved toward a hidden panel on his command chair, reaching for the control that would trigger the ship's self-destruct sequence. If he was going to die, he would take these arrogant humans with him. He would deny them their victory. His fingers never reached the panel. Nari, who had been monitoring every system on the ship simultaneously through her neural interface, locked out the command before Vex Thor even touched it. A red warning flashed across every screen on the bridge. Nice try, she said without looking up from her terminal. Self-destruct, disabled. Emergency protocols, disabled. Even the escape pods are locked down. You're not dying today, Commander. You're going to live and watch what happens next. Operator Kiwan pressed his rifle harder against Vexus Thor's head. Move again, without permission, and I'll make sure you live through it. But wish you hadn't. Jae-hyun ignored the defeated alien commander. He was watching the tactical display, seeing how many Valtherian ships were still intact. About 3,000 vessels, all dead in space, all under human control. Perfect. Nari, how long until you have full access to their military database? Already done, sir. I have everything. Fleet positions, defensive installations, command codes, encrypted communication protocols, even their personal files. I know what Vex Thor had for breakfast 3 weeks ago. Jae-hyun allowed himself a small smile. Send it all to Earth. Command will want to review it before Phase 4 begins. On Earth, in the United Nations building in Geneva, Ambassador Siwoo stood before a camera. Behind him, A team of technicians prepared the most important broadcast in human history. Next to him stood Chief Scientist Jisoo, the woman who had turned information warfare into humanity's most devastating weapon. "Are we ready?" Siwoo asked. Jisoo checked her tablet one last time. "The signal is prepared. Once we transmit, every civilization in this galaxy, with the capability to receive it, will get our message. We'll be broadcasting on quantum channels, electromagnetic frequencies, and several forms of FTL communication the Valtherians don't even know exist. How many species will receive it? Conservative estimate? 2,000. Possibly as many as 5,000. Every spacefaring civilization within 200 light-years will hear what we have to say." Siwoo took a deep breath. This moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Everything they had worked for, everything they had prepared for, came down to the next few minutes. "Begin the broadcast." The camera activated. Siwoo looked directly into it, knowing that his words would soon reach across the stars. When he spoke, his voice was calm and measured. "To all civilizations receiving this transmission, greetings. I am Ambassador Siwoo of the planet Earth, speaking on behalf of humanity. 3 days ago, the Valtherian Empire entered our solar system with a fleet of 10,000 warships. They demanded our surrender. They threatened to destroy our world if we did not submit to their rule. He paused, letting that sink in. The Valtherian Empire is 3,000 years old. They have conquered 847 worlds. Their military might is legendary, and in 3 days, we destroyed them." On the view screen behind him, footage played. The Valtherian vanguard being erased from existence. Human warships appearing from nowhere. The alien fleet's desperate and futile attempts to fight back. The images were clear and undeniable. "Humanity has been aware of the galactic community for 63 years, Siwoo continued. "We have watched you. We have studied you. We have learned from you. And we have prepared." The Valtherians made the mistake of assuming that what they could see was all that existed. They were wrong. He gestured to Jisoo, who stepped forward. "What you are about to receive is a gift. Complete tactical data on Valtherian military technology. Their weapons systems. Their shield configurations. Their command codes. Their strategic doctrine. Everything you need to defend yourselves against them. Or, if you choose, to attack them." In orbit around Earth, the captured Valtherian fleet suddenly came to life. Every ship's communication array activated simultaneously, all under human control. The transmission that followed would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Across thousands of star systems, alien civilizations received the data dump. Species that had been conquered by the Valtherians suddenly had the keys to their oppressors' technology. Neighboring empires that had fought losing wars against Valtherian expansion suddenly understood their enemies' weaknesses. Slave races that had served the empire for centuries now had the information they needed to rebel. But Jisoo wasn't finished. Engineer Minjae had spent the last 5 years developing something special, and this was the moment to deploy it. "Along with the tactical data," Jisoo explained to the camera, "we are transmitting a specialized program. It will integrate with any Valtherian military technology and modify its core recognition systems. From this moment forward, all Valtherian weapons, defenses, and ships will recognize human IFF signatures as friendly and allied signatures as hostile. The Valtherians are now locked out of their own empire's defenses. In the Valtherian capital world, thousands of light-years away, alarms began to sound. Military commanders stared in horror at their screens as their defensive grid turned against them. Orbital weapons that had protected the homeworld for 1,000 years now targeted Valtherian ships instead of threats. Automated defense systems treated their own vessels as enemies. Panic spread through the empire like wildfire. Within minutes, 17 colony worlds declared independence. 3 neighboring alien civilizations that had been waiting for any sign of weakness immediately launched attacks on Valtherian border systems. The mighty empire began to tear itself apart. Commander Hajin of Earth's Intelligence Division watched the reports flood in from deep space monitoring stations. His screens showed chaos, spreading across a significant portion of the galaxy. Revolutions, invasions, collapse. "It's working better than projected," he reported to the Command Council. "The Valtherian Empire is experiencing system-wide failure. We estimate complete collapse within 6 months." Back on the captured flagship, Vex Thor watched the same reports on the bridge view screen. His empire, built over 3 millennia, was dying before his eyes. Worlds he had personally conquered were throwing off their chains. Fleets he had trained were being destroyed by their own defensive systems. The Valtherian people were being attacked from all sides by enemies who suddenly had every advantage. "You've killed us all," he whispered, his voice hollow. "Not just this fleet. The entire empire. Billions of Valtherians across thousands of worlds. You've doomed them all." Jaehyun looked at him without sympathy. "You came to our world to do the same to us. The only difference is we're better at it than you are." "We would have been merciful," Vex Thor protested weakly. "We would have allowed your species to survive under our rule. We don't want mercy. We don't want to survive under anyone's rule. We want to be left alone. And the only way to ensure that is to make absolutely certain that anyone who threatens us regrets it." On Earth, Siwoo delivered the final part of his message to the galaxy. "Let this be a lesson to all civilizations. Earth does not seek conquest. We do not desire territory. We will not force our will upon others. But if you threaten humanity or our allies, you will face the same fate as the Valtherians. We offer friendship and trade to those who approach with respect. We offer annihilation to those who approach with conquest." The broadcast ended. The message was sent, and across the galaxy, thousands of civilizations received it simultaneously. They all learned the same lesson. There was a new power in the galaxy, and that power was not to be trifled with. In the command center on Olympus Station, General Sora watched the galactic map update in real time. Red markers showed Valtherian systems under attack. Yellow markers showed systems declaring independence. Green markers showed civilizations sending diplomatic messages to Earth, requesting peaceful contact. "It's done," she said quietly. "The galaxy knows we exist. They know what we can do. And they know we won't hesitate to do it again." Marshal Ji-Yun, standing beside her, nodded slowly. "The hard part begins now. Managing our rise to power. Building alliances. Establishing ourselves as something more than just destroyers." Sora smiled. "We'll manage. We're human. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near-extinction events. Managing galactic politics will be easy compared to that." On the Eternal Dominion, Vex Thor sat in silence, watching his life's work crumble. Jaehyun left him there, surrounded by human guards, alone with his defeat. The once proud commander of the galaxy's greatest empire was now just another cautionary tale. A warning about the price of underestimating humanity. 6 months had passed since the Valtherian fleet died in Earth's solar system. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Valtherian Empire, which had stood for 3,000 years, was now a memory. Their former territories were divided among dozens of liberated species, each one grateful for freedom and terrified of the humans who had made it possible. Director Young-ho, of the newly established Terran Diplomatic Corps, stood in the Grand Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Sanctum. The hall had been built specifically for this occasion. The first Galactic Assembly, where Earth would have a voice. Around him, representatives from 200 civilizations waited, some curious, some fearful, all respectful. Captain Seo-jun stood at attention near the main entrance. His team of peacekeepers spread throughout the hall. They wore dress uniforms rather than combat armor. But everyone present knew what these soldiers could do. They had seen the recordings from Jupiter. They had watched humans systematically destroy the galaxy's most powerful military force. The hall fell silent as Young-ho approached the central podium. He looked out at the assembled aliens, seeing species of every imaginable form. Some breathed oxygen, like humans. Others required specialized atmospheric suits. Some were larger than bears. Others were smaller than children. All of them were waiting to hear what Earth had to say. Representatives of the galactic community, Young-ho began. His voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast hall. 6 months ago, humanity announced its presence to the galaxy in a way that shocked everyone. We destroyed the Valtherian Empire's fleet. We dismantled their control systems. We gave their enemies the tools to defeat them. Some of you cheered. Some of you celebrated your freedom. And some of you wondered if you had simply traded one threat for another. He paused, letting his words sink in. I am here today to make Earth's position clear. We will not conquer. We will not build an empire. We will not impose our will on other civilizations. But make no mistake, any civilization that threatens humanity or our allies will face the same fate as the Valtherians. A representative from the Keltorian Assembly, a species that had been enslaved by the Valtherians for 500 years, stood up. His translator device converted his clicking speech to standard galactic. How can we trust you? You destroyed the Valtherians in days. You have technology centuries ahead of ours. What stops you from becoming the next empire? End quote. End quote. End quote. Young-ho nodded, expecting the question. What stops us is simple. We don't want an empire. Managing thousands of worlds, controlling billions of lives, fighting endless wars to maintain dominance, that sounds exhausting. We want to live on our planet, explore the universe, trade with neighbors, and be left in peace. The Valtherians threatened that peace. So, we eliminated the threat. He activated the display behind him, showing footage of Earth. Cities gleaming with light. Ships launching into space. Humans working alongside the first alien visitors who had arrived seeking trade. This is what we want. Cooperation, commerce, cultural exchange. We offer friendship to those who approach with respect. Another representative, this one from the Threnal Compact, rose. And what of those who don't approach with respect? What of those who see your power as a threat that must be eliminated before you grow stronger? Young-ho's expression hardened. Then they will be eliminated first. We won't wait for threats to materialize. We won't give enemies the advantage of the first strike. We learned that lesson from the Valtherians. They came to our system, expecting easy victory. Instead, they found a trap we had spent 60 years preparing. The representative pressed on. So you will strike preemptively? Attack before being attacked? If necessary, yes. But understand, we're not looking for fights. We're not seeking dominance. We simply refuse to be victims. There's a difference between aggression and defense. We will always err on the side of protecting ourselves and our allies. In the back of the hall, a delegation of surviving Valtherian diplomats sat in assigned seats, their once proud empire reduced to a handful of systems and a fraction of their former power. Their lead representative, a young female named Selna, stood on shaking legs. What of us? She asked, her voice barely audible. What of the Valtherians who survived? Will you hunt us to extinction? The hall went silent. Everyone wanted to hear the answer. Would humanity show mercy, or would they finish what they started? Young-ho looked at her directly. The Valtherian people are not our enemy. The Valtherian Empire was our enemy, and it no longer exists. We have no desire to commit genocide. But understand this, if any Valtherian government ever threatens Earth or our allies again, if you ever rebuild your military and point it at us, we will finish this. Is that clear? Selna nodded slowly, tears visible on her scaled face. It is clear. We have learned. The Empire is gone. We will not seek its return. As the assembly continued, Captain Seo-jun watched from his position near the entrance. He had been at Jupiter, had fought aboard the Valtherian ships, had seen the Empire's military might crushed in days. He knew what humanity was capable of. He also knew the weight of that capability. His comm unit buzzed with a message from Marshal Ji-yun back on Earth. Status? Diplomatic session proceeding smoothly, Sojun replied quietly. No threats detected. The other civilizations seem to be accepting Earth's position. 2. Good. Keep your guard up. Not everyone will be happy with the new order, Sojun understood. Back on Earth, humanity's true military buildup was accelerating. The ships that destroyed the Valtherians were already obsolete, being replaced by vessels that made them look primitive. Scientist Kyungmin had unlocked fusion technology that provided virtually unlimited power. New weapons were being developed. New defenses installed. Humanity was done hiding. But they weren't done preparing. On Earth itself, in his modest office in Seoul, old Professor Dongwoo sat with his graduate student Haeun, reviewing their latest research. They were the ones who had started everything, decoding the first alien mathematics 63 years ago when Dongwoo was a young man. Do you ever regret it? Haeun asked, looking at the news feeds showing Earth's rise to prominence. If we hadn't decoded those signals, humanity would still be ignorant. We'd still think we were alone. Maybe we'd be happier. Dongwoo smiled, his aged face wrinkling. Ignorance isn't happiness. It's just delayed fear. We gave humanity the gift of preparation. Without our work, without everyone who came after us, Earth would have been conquered or destroyed. Instead, we're sitting here, watching our species take its place among the stars. But we destroyed an empire. Billions of Valtherians are suffering because of the chaos we caused. Billions of Valtherians were living on the backs of conquered species. Trillions of beings were slaves or subjects. We didn't cause suffering, we redistributed it. The Valtherians are now experiencing what they inflicted on others for 3,000 years. I don't lose sleep over that. Ungording failed. Ungording failed. Ungording fielding failed. Inflicted fielding filled. Haeun nodded slowly. What do you think happens next? 1. Humanity grows. We explore. We build. We make allies, and probably some enemies. But we'll never be caught unprepared again. That's what matters. We ensured our species' survival. Above Earth, the defense satellites hummed with power, ever vigilant. The lunar shipyards worked around the clock, building vessels for humanity's growing fleet. On Mars, the first major colony was expanding, preparing to be humanity's second home. Throughout the solar system, human civilization was spreading, growing stronger with each passing day. Back at the Galactic Assembly, Young-ho concluded his address. Earth proposes a new doctrine for the galaxy. Freedom for all species. No empires, no slavery, no conquest. Those who live by these principles will find humanity to be a generous friend and reliable ally. Those who reject these principles will find us to be an implacable enemy. Choose wisely. The representatives talked among themselves, processing what they had heard. Some were enthusiastic, seeing opportunities for trade and alliance. Others were cautious, uncertain about this new power. A few were hostile, already planning how to counter or eliminate the human threat. Sojun saw it all. He recognized the expressions, the body language, the subtle signs of those who would become problems. His report would identify potential threats, allowing Earth's intelligence services to monitor them closely. As the assembly adjourned for the day, representatives approached Young-ho, seeking private meetings. The Threnal Compact wanted to discuss trade agreements. The Keltorian Assembly requested military assistance against pirates. A dozen other civilizations sought diplomatic relations, scientific exchanges, or cultural programs. Young-ho handled them all with practiced ease, making no firm commitments but leaving everyone with hope. This was humanity's new role. Not conquerors, not subjects, but power brokers. The force that kept the peace because no one wanted to face Earth's wrath. That night, in the quarters assigned to the human delegation, Young-ho sat with Sojun reviewing the day's events. They're scared of us, Sojun observed. Good. Fear prevents stupidity. They saw what happened to the Valtherians. They won't make the same mistake. Some will try. There's always someone who thinks they're smarter, stronger, or luckier. Young-ho nodded. And we'll deal with them when the time comes. For now, we build relationships. We establish trade. We prove we can be reasonable. But we never, ever, let them forget what we can do if pushed. So, we're the galaxy's guard dog? More like the sleeping dragon. Leave us alone, and everyone prospers. Wake us up with threats. Young-ho didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The message had been sent 6 months ago, when the Valtherian fleet died. It had been reinforced today with words and diplomacy, and it would be reinforced again and again, as many times as necessary, until every civilization in the galaxy understood one simple truth. Humanity would not conquer the stars, but neither would anyone conquer humanity. Earth had announced its presence to the galaxy not with words, but with overwhelming, undeniable force. The Valtherians had dared to invade Earth, expecting an easy conquest of primitives. Instead, they became a legend, a warning, a story told across 1,000 worlds. Never underestimate humanity. They don't just fight to win. They fight to ensure you can never threaten them again. And if you force them to fight, they will end you so completely that future generations will study your defeat as a cautionary tale. The galaxy had learned. And humanity, finally, could rest secure, knowing that anyone foolish enough to threaten Earth would face the same fate as the Valtherians. Annihilation.